So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My talk this morning is going to be on the gateway to prosperity. So we know our consciousness is always our prosperity, and the fact that we're here, we know that there is some prosperous reasoning behind it, and we shall see that. You have such a power, and I love that. My faith makes it so, and that's exactly it. My belief, regardless of circumstances, conditions, my faith is the word of power, one with God, that moves forward to make it a fact. It's very exciting. So that means when we've made up our mind, there's nothing, according to our faith, that we cannot experience. So, this morning's topic is one of my most favorites, and it is one of the most sublime, divine topics, and that is abundance. Sublime, why? Because abundance is the true nature of God, which is always love, and love can be none other than a projection of prolific, abundant life. So this morning, in order to get the strongest overview of that which we truly are, thereby being able and empowering ourselves to break the bonds of the lacks and limitations of yesterday which do not belong to us, we must move from our individual experiences and references, which are very short-sighted. You know how we think, I am my experience, I am the thing that happened to me yesterday, I am my feelings about things. Now we know all these are temporary. They are not the truth, okay? So in order to break these bonds of lack and limitation of yesterday, which means the bonds of the limited identification in your belief system, we must move now from our individual experiences, referring to our limited individual experiences, into a wider reference of a universality, a cosmology, if you will, taking on a definite new high cosmology and awareness about abundance. Why is this important? Because what we believe, as Jean said, as we know, is our life. So the life of our abundance depends upon our consciousness of abundance and nothing else. So in looking from the overall viewpoint, we know that God, or that which we call God, life force, great I am, Atman, whatever you call it, God, the mighty I am, responds to us according to how we perceive it, how we recognize it. So in order to shift anything, the gateway or entry to any experience of a higher order of prosperity is through our recognition. It's through our recognition. For we know that what our mind is on, we multiply. What our attention is on, we become like. We absorb into our being. So how we recognize or perceive a thing is how it's going to be for us. So the correction must happen through the gateway of our recognition that there is a self-existent, universal principle of God called abundance, indigenous to its nature, and in order to have the great self-existent, prosperous, and lavish self-providing law working fully for us, we must recognize that it is. Okay? I mean, it's like the love of your life can be living next door to you. But if your consciousness is elsewhere, you won't know that. All right? And then you'll be shocked and amazed. Why, goodness, this person has been here for 10 years, right? So it goes to show you that there is no problem with availability. Everything that you are now thinking of that you desire is available right now. So we are the ones who must perform the shift, the alignment, the attunement, that we can recognize and embrace that which already is for each and every one of us. Okay, so this recognition of that there is a great prospering principle of life which I use when I think into life about any good for myself is the first step. Even if I don't feel that way, even if I'm feeling miserable and my appearances don't look much like what I'm thinking, at least if I know what the truth is, you see, I have a step, a solid step to aspire to. And the rest I can get rid of, but I must know what the truth is. So then we are now, after recognizing this, you can say that we have now opened the door to enter into the experience of abundance and have it operate in us, on our behalf, through us, as us. How? Through the line, the stream of our attitudes, our knowing at the seat of the Most High, the temple of highest knowing, which is where we recognize the truth, and our expectations. All right? So if we could stand back for a moment, and I think this taking this high state of objectivity is so important. If we could stand back from all experience, withdraw from a moment, and look at life operating on its own, witnessing it, the objective operation of life, we would see that a loving God, a God of wholeness, never could have established anything like need, separation, or lack. If you think about this great truth, a God of wholeness cannot think in those terms. Therefore, it is not indigenous or inherent to us to be experiencing this. All right? God, when God breathes out the universe, whole and complete and perfect, God, there was no idea of servitude or slavery. Working for a living. Work, yes, because we love to express, we love to participate, yes, but working for a living, no. Worrying about supply, guilt, confusion about supply, none of this was existent from the originating mind. It couldn't be. Otherwise, the mind itself, or God itself, would have to have guilt about God's own prosperity. So that's an impossibility. All right? So it is only, so the supply was given. The substance of supply was given from the beginning. It's a given. You have already inherited the kingdom, in other words. And these other distortions slipped in as mankind, or man-woman, began to exert power over man-woman. It was never God's exertion or law over us. It was our lesser law when we got caught up in power struggles over one another. In other words, if I can, it's like if I can get you to work for me for less abundance than you deserve, I've exerted my power over you. All right? So it isn't that you have to work for something lesser than what you're worth, but I have been able to operate that over you. So God does not do this. God leaves every being free. God loves every being and would not put you in a diminished position. So we must keep this in mind, that this is an overlay of attitudes and stuff that has come in through when the fog of separation from our source. So this rift has caused a deep sadness and has given rise to all forms of lack. So our first correction in climbing up the ladder is to realize that God owned the wholeness, established a universe of splendid, whole, abundant, prolific, ongoing supply, which every man, woman may freely access. How? If we don't have to fight for it, we don't have to slave for it, we don't have to struggle for it, how do we get our supply now? Through rights of consciousness, of recognition, and through what aligns us with anything: love, acknowledgement, and appreciation. That is what the abundance system requires from us. Constant love, constant appreciation, constant loving recognition. That moves us into a state of complete usage, regardless of what the others are saying, what's going on. Our energy is of the divine. So we don't have anything of ourselves. We can use all. So love and appreciation is the high stance of the mystic. And this is the one thing that heals those seams and those distances of separation. Love unifies. Fear, worry, all of this densifies you and separates you. So what a relief to know that a loving Father only requires from us total acknowledgement and recognition. And what a wonderful thing to know that if we did not have experienced this, or we did not learn this as children, not all of us were born to gurus, right? So, next time, probably. But since that's not the case, the fact is, since we are free and we are conscious now and awake, we can get the recognition now. So it doesn't matter when we enter in, as long as we enter in. Okay, so this universe we know now is a universe of lavish and loving supply. It is a great gift that has been given to the divine family, to each and every one without distinction, to supply and meant to supply and nurture the divine family and to supply its every needs. How are we to relate to this, to use this great nurturing gift, and how does it operate now that we've resolved issues of availability? We know the great nature of life is to operate and express what? As a whole and integrated, prosperous pattern, including all. Now, those are powerful words. A whole and integrated, prosperous pattern, including all. Thus, in the truth, none can be left out or behind unless they are still deluded by their own, dulled by their own delusion, because you have the right of free thought. All right? But nothing in the universe leaves you behind, nor is the design wanting to leave anyone behind out of the goods. We also know that this tendency to prosper, I tend to prosper. I am that which tends to prosper and to be abundant is our nature. For we are that spark of God, that prospering spark of God, right where we are. So prosperity operates always the highest and the best, the most stresslessly, the most harmoniously, on principles of inclusivity, universality, good, love, attraction, affinity, multiplication, adherence, and coherence, and increase. And we ourselves are divine abundance, one with it, operating this facet of our God, cosmic Christ, risen natures through our prolific ideas. Look at that. Look at the ideas we're constantly wanting to create and pour forth. What do you think that is? That's God's prosperous spirit as us, right? Our prolific desires, our creativity. You can see the very presence of God resident in our natural urge to constantly express and create and bring out the infinity that we are. Thus we carry on and replicate the nature of the divine, the fount of our being through ourselves. So we can see now that ideas of greater good that come to us are, in fact, those special ideas when we get the ahas. I want to do this, right? We get an idea. Those ideas are the self-contained atom, glowing atom of God, an idea of prosperity dawning upon consciousness, whole and complete, self-contained, and within are already provided, as in the seed, the perfect unfoldment and fulfillment. This is something to realize. Thomas Troward, a very great author, talks about this. He said, from the beginning you get your idea, the whole thing, like in a seed. No one sees the rose. When you plant the seed, you don't see that rose, right? But you know it's in there. And if you love that rose enough and you apply your right attention to it and water it and nurture it appropriately, you will see the most beautiful rose, and you've seen it before you see it. And so we must know, with our life-giving ideas to expand, to express greater life, that is the divine wanting to express through us, and everything is contained, the ways and means, from the moment that we get the idea. Because God is a wholeness, and doesn't give you an unintelligent seed of thought, that doesn't have everything already in it. Okay, so the universe always moves. We know it's a prospering universe, so everything we do is a result of that consciousness of wanting to prosper, express that. And the universe, where does it move? Does it go shopping next door in some other world for its goods? No, it moves upon itself. In other words, God thought and God became. The stuff of God became the thing. Right? So it moves upon itself. It has everything, self-inclusive, everything within, to fulfill itself. Moves upon itself to fulfill itself. Never, not ever, does the universe think in terms of, well, I can't do this today, or I don't have enough. It knows what it is, and it knows that it reaches into the great infinite and draws whatever. All right? So we carry on this. We move upon ourselves through contemplating our great idea and acknowledging the creative process in the source, and then there is a birth of an idea, fully formed. You can relate it somewhat to the process of childbirth. So this is a very joyous system that does not know pain, does not know denial. Only human beings can give you, some contorted reason why you should deny yourself some good, and probably it's for either they are under the delusion too, or because they're desiring to exert some influence. So it's not the truth about you. So how does divine mind operate its very own principle of abundance through us? We have seen that the nature of life is to express as a whole prosperous pattern, an incredible inner tapestry where all lines of correlations and connections to any idea of good. If you look like an etheric pattern, like a light pattern, it is perfect. It is a perfect, all-inclusive tapestry on the inner etheric planes. We call this the spiritual prototype, which is the inner invisible idea, which forms the mold or the pattern for the outpicturing. All right, so we can see that the idea or seed acts like every other atom in this universe that we know, as a magnetic field. How do atoms of ideas operate? Like magnetic fields, drawing unto themselves upon these inner lines and roads of affinity and agreement, everything from everywhere that it is of like nature. That's why we say we operate on affinity. We never have to force our good. The perfection operates on affinity, oneness. This is an inherent principle of harmonious interaction. So as metaphysicians in God, we realize this fundamental principle operates through us to gather all to itself that which is necessary for the wonderful, the magnificent idea of good to manifest. Through the natural laws of attraction, remember an idea is a magnetic field, so it draws like attracts like, draws unto itself, and loving connection. Through this we ascend and come out into the pattern of wholeness of our idea. So now we must step out of these shells of fear and separation, which are erroneous and are, products of misunderstanding, and we can never use the law of mind in a conscious manner while we're in fear and separation. Okay? So we must step out of this, recognizing I am not separate, I just thought I was. And understanding that what this mighty universal pattern is that is so harmonious and that provides you everything. Now I've got to tell you this brief story. I was watching this television show on creation, one of those wonderful things on A&E. And it just, became so, even more clear to me watching this program The narrator was speaking of the very first life forms living in the seas, tiny little bacteria living in the sea. And these forms, which do not have the opportunity to alter as we do, cannot make conscious connection with the divine. These forms would replicate their DNA pattern and create another and more and more and more. They were self-producing of their DNA pattern, okay, the first forms. And it was just so astonishing to really realize again the depth of the intelligence that operates this universe. So here are these little expressions of life, and then there began to become other elements, like a volcanic steamer suddenly nearby, from a volcanic eruption. And initially, these other elements that were growing or manifesting in creation were initially hostile to the little bacteria, or the little bacteria felt, here's this big steaming volcanic thing, And what did they do? These bacteria began to join, to merge and become a larger unit. And they grew larger, and they evolved an entire new DNA pattern for their multiplication process, and they developed an outer film where they could then enter the so-called or once hostile field and abide peacefully. Look at that. I mean, just think of that. The greatness of life and what we're working with. So they, like us, they gathered unto themselves through the force of their desire to live or to, go on. They drew out from that which they were, the method and the means, and through the law of attraction, like they gathered together that of like mind and formed a larger nucleus and became a force and multiplied then from the new level, propelled by the desire to sustain life. So this is a success idea. Those bacteria had a success idea, okay? And so they did what was necessary. And the ways and the means, this is so important, were already provided. So see what power you have when you work on lines of affinity. Like, let those that are mine come to me. My own know me. You hear the statement. That means, there's perfection. So I don't have to struggle against or prove anything to. I look for my line of love, the natural, inherent thing. So when we metaphysicians, beings of light and God consciousness, move upon an idea with our consciousness, we do our whatever's on the outer that seem in right action, about that idea. But we understand that it is really God or that atom within us that is drawing all of like mind and agreement from the nth of the universe, from wherever it is, that all may prosper, increase, and manifest perfectly. We don't bother with resistant fields. We resist not resistance. We don't try to prove or exert influence over others. We know love and affinity by itself will do it for us and build up the perfect body. What else? This, I feel, is also important, to operate on the sublime principle of detachment. And we've all heard this. Detachment, the Buddha, the mystics. In other words, when an idea is unfolding, we must stand back and go into that high place and take the witness seat alongside God, observing the mighty creation on the invisible with our inner eye. We take the inner position in our meditations of acknowledgement. I know that this is happening, and I see it happening. Viewing dispassionately, not non-lovingly, with a great amount of love, but dispassionately, in other words, we're not all caught up in it, the great workings of cosmic order around our idea. We cultivate through our meditations the ability to look at the idea itself and to see and to notice the perfection of all parts working together for harmonious good. I love this statement. Dominic used to say this, Marianne, everything works together for my good. And this is what talking about it. Everything is working together for my good. Okay, so we are seeing the perfection before it is manifest. Thus I cultivate in the seat of my high knowing, the knower in me, a sense of myself, one with God, being the overseer of the creation, the governing mind, the loving mind, rather than in it, getting caught up in pushes and pulls. This is developing our supreme knower within us. So now we recognize what God is. We know how the prospering principle of life works upon magnetic lines of affinity. We know how to best sustain our creation while it's doing its forming thing on the invisible through love recognition. Perfect, it's perfect, it's perfect. What else can we keep in mind? The prospering principle never runs out of itself. It is self-sustaining, self-renewing. It never runs out of itself. So there's no truth that I don't have anymore. I have it all right where I am, okay? We can never use a principle or substance. You know, like when you have money, and they say, well, you don't have to go into the principle, you just use the interest, right? We can never use a principle or substance because it is self-creating, self-renewing, self-regenerating. It is an ever-present responding and happening thing. And one last key I would like to give you is to practice the constant recognition. This is very important. This has to do with healing all those divisions in mind, that everything is a part of it. You know, have you ever said, like you'll say, you know, God, I want some good, you know? And then things are happening and say, well, that's not what I asked for. You know? Do you know what you're doing right then and there? You're breaking the lines of your creation. You're breaking it all apart. And you've got to go and put it all together and you know, get it going again, right? So what we do, we know to do, since we see rather shortly as humans, we don't see the whole grand tapestry that's unfolding, this tapestry that I'm talking about in the invisible. We say that this is a part of my good. No matter what it looks like, this is a part of my good. This is accelerating my good even. You know, we use strong words to let the divine principle know, God and us know, that we know what it is doing. And we do not get stuck in judging by appearances, okay? So this is very important, and you can practice it. I remember one time, one of my younger students, very beautiful 18-year-old girl, she was treating for relationship. And she, you know, then suddenly, you know, all the young men on the subway were like, you know, speaking to her and, you know, and all this stuff. And she came back to me and she said, well, there's so much action, but where's my relationship? I said, that's a part of it. So you have to know in your heart, you know, that all this attention that these guys are paying to me, that I bless them for letting me know that my good is coming through, you know. So that establishes a great harmony. You see the great difference? All right? So everything is prospering me. And this is because we understand that we live in a universe of wholeness. It can only operate in a one idea of whole fulfillment perfection. So there couldn't be anything operating against us. And through the process of maintaining your prosperity, be vigilant. Guard yourself when you get into negative thinking of any sort, anything that negates your good. Just prune it out, you know, and replace it, get still, and replace it. On the instant, these are moving meditations. Just get still and replace it with the correct knowing. Come back into love. Because love and joy are the last things that you need. There is nothing unhappy. You know, there's no concept of working hard in God. God is, God does, out of a great effusiveness. And so it's very important to maintain your line of joy and love. And I know even, I'll just, before we do a short meditation on Alistair. Alistair is going to be getting married next week. And he went through a challenge. He has a certain thing in mind of an elegant atmosphere where he wants to be married. And he went to one place that looked like it, and it didn't work out there. And instead of getting into arguing and criticizing and all this, Alistair just affirmed that, he released that, that's okay, that something even greater is coming to me. And he affirmed his love and his knowing. Isn't this a great guy? He goes out and gets the place. He's handing all the running arrangements, right? So what happens to Alistair? Maybe you just want to briefly finish the story, where you're now having where that wedding is being demonstrated now?
They gave it to Governor's Suite at the hotel for after the night.
Excuse me, is that a $1,700 suite, Alistair?
Correct.
Okay, so does God respond to loving, knowing? Yes. Congratulations. So he could have gotten off at any point and broken the line of manifestation, but he maintained his perfect knowing that I have my supply, and if not this, something more magnificent. And his mind of love manifested that for him. Okay? So, as we join this universal oversoul with a consciousness of abundance, recognizing the abundant principle, we are maintaining a constant sense of joy and blissful recognition, inner recognition of the way things work and are always working for us in the perfection. Keeping our mind on the supreme assurance, I am one with God, and all things are working together right now in the perfect pattern for my perfect good. This is my guarantee to astonishing manifestation every time, in which I may endlessly rejoice. And now we can say in our inner hearts, I live in a whole, complete, self-contained universe of astounding affinity and love, governed by God, where all the parts of my experience are interconnected in activities and manifestations constantly of greatest good. Isn't that wonderful? So let's just do a very short meditation to root ourselves in this understanding. So let us go within right now. Taking a sweeping breath, we sweep up to the highest domain of consciousness, and each one of us now gently exiting the body being to flow out into the great universe of substance and to sit at the right hand of God, viewing the wide universe of abundant good before us. Right now, we are immersed in a benefic and bountiful light beyond all imagining. And let us breathe in that light throughout every pore and cell of our being, throughout the entirety of our brain cells and cognitive powers. And right now, let us gently flow to view in mind any situation that needs our divine consciousness of only abundance is the truth of God. And let us spread our great consciousness over, in, around, and through this situation. And let us say to ourselves now, I realize the loving magnificence hath given me all already. Thus I right now give up any ideas of lack or limitation for me. That is not possible. And as we wipe the misty cloud of delusion from our eyes, we all see that are good individually, according to us, is already manifest. For it was already given by a loving Father, Mother, God from the beginning. And we stand back in awe now as we witness the God action of completion, the perfect forming of our manifestation of prosperous good, right now complete and perfect. And we say, it is so wonderful. You are that on which I can rely, and I am grateful. And so it is. I am that I am, and right now I declare there is only one force that streams through my life, and that rich and radiant substance of God, always becoming that which I need. I am the totality of divine abundance in action. I realize the very stuff of God flows limitless throughout the very pores of my being, in and out. The unstoppable, ever-circulating river of resounding life sustains and supports my every need and gloriously fulfills my every desire. God is the never-ending, self-renewing action of abounding creation manifesting in the instant. Right now, anywhere that requires the stuff of God, anywhere that is at a lesser level than fullest life, is immediately raised to richest and completest satisfaction. I am that which gathers and attracts the most abundant and the best. Thank you, God. Thou art the sweet perfume of an ineffable and irresistible majesty and wholeness. Thou art the allness rushing in and sweeping through me on every crest and every wave, and so it is, and so it is. I love that river of life.